The Packers got a wake-up call. It seemed like the Raiders and Vikings didn't want to score at all. The Jets upset the Texans. The Cowboys really flexed, and Kadarius Toney lined up on the wrong side of the ball. Welcome to the Mishpo. Alrighty, everybody, welcome to the Week 14 episode of the Mishpo. After last week when I was playing with that little fun site that I found, and I watched back when I was like, oh, I wonder. Well, but first I said, oh, I wonder if you guys saw any of my screen there. Turns out you didn't. So apologies for that. You had to see a close-up version of my face, which I'm sure some of you liked, but I would have preferred to see for you to see what I was looking at. More interesting that way. But another quick thing. Um, I mentioned a week or two ago how Matt, when he scored his massive amount of points, I'm like, that's got to be near the top, the highest point total ever scored in this league. And at the time, I didn't quite know um, where to find that. However, since then, I have indeed found on Sleeper where that is located. I pulled it up on my phone. We'll see if I can maybe quickly pull it up on the computer here. It's in the league history section. I don't know. Maybe scores. I don't know why it should just be the same for. I don't know. It's not showing. I can't pull it up on the phone or on the computer here, so I'll just read it off of my phone. And I was correct. Matt was in the he tracks the of all time since we've been on Sleeper. That is the all time top 10 highest scores um ever. And so I'll just quickly read through the top 10. 10 was State in 2020, week 17, so championship week. Obviously, the week he won the championship, 176.27. 9 was Fiala in 2020, week 8, 177.72. And there's Lily in the background. Week number 8 was T-Corn in 21, week 5, 181.42. 7, Abby in 21, week 6, 184.14. Matt at number 6 that week 13, 188.62. Number 5 was Lincoln in 2022, week 8, 190.96. 4, also Lincoln, 2020, week 5, 191.8. Number 3 was Abby, 21, week 14, 193.32. I'm pretty sure that's the week she knocked me out of the playoffs that season. And then kind of just if I would have beat Abby that week, I would have been champion that year because I would have scored more points than T-Corn. But not in the dice. Um, Actually, no, maybe it's this next one. Abby 2021. So week 16 for Abby. So in 2021, week 14 and week 16, she scored the second and or third and then the fourth highest points scored ever. Well, at the time, second and first most points. It was 194.3 in week 16. That's probably the one that knocked me out. Oh, Abby, you had a magical season that year. Incredible you didn't win. And then, of course, number 1, which was actually this year in week 9. Hey, bud. And now Loki's here. Bruce scored 196.83. So have not quite cracked the 200-point mark. We'll see if that happens this upcoming year. But yeah, that was the top 10 highest scoring teams since we've moved to Sleeper, which I assume is probably ever in this league because previously we had the kicker and only one flex. Now we've got no kicker, 2 flexes. So let's see if we can crack 200 next year, folks. Alrighty. So yeah, we will jump into this past week's matchups. Obviously, some very important ones took place. And I'll try to be quick on this. You don't need to linger too long. So go to league, obviously. And week 13. All right. No, week 14. Yeah. I don't know. Why is this not updated? Come on, refresh, buddy. Week 14. All right. Myself versus Michael. We all knew this was going to happen. I, of course, beat him handedly by 4 points and some change. It really came down to Monday night. Romeo had an incredible. Lily, stop it. Romeo Dobbs had an incredible performance. 7.2 points for him. Obviously, incredible stuff. It's not really that. Tyreek and Tua just failed to be incredible like they usually do. Tyreek only had 10.1, and Tua only 7.1. I believe going into that matchup, I had like a 90% chance at least to lose. But look who freaking won, ya boy. So, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't really that important, but it just felt good to avenge my week 1 loss to Michael, and beat the best team in the league. So, who's really the best team in the league? So Unlucky Joey takes down Lucky Mike. We'll just go with that. All right. Next up, Lincoln versus State. This one was important. Lincoln needed to win to get in, and he, of course, did. Not his greatest performance. Some lower scores, but I mean, he scored more than State, so that's really all you can ask for. Yeah. Congrats, Lincoln, to, I believe he's the 6th seed. I guess I could pull it up on my computer, but I'm looking at that on the computer. So, standings. Yeah, Lincoln is the 5th seed, and Abby is the 6th seed. So, congrats to Lincoln. Way to get in there. Sorry, State. So, yeah. Next is Fiala versus Caleb. Another relatively close matchup this week. We had some pretty close matchups this week, except for maybe one or something. And not super high scoring. I feel like this was kind of a down week for a lot of teams. But there were some good scores. Allen and ETN had good games. Pollard was decent. Robinson was pretty good. Pittman was very solid. But yeah, I mean, just overall, look at these two defenses scored about the same against each other. That's kind of fun. But yeah, this matchup again doesn't really mean anything. Fiala was locked into that 2nd seed, but now I think he was actually just missed that 1st seed point wise, because they're both 12-2, and Michael had 1779.32, and Fiala had 1758.56. So he missed that number 1 seed by just about 20 points. So that's pretty dang close. We'll see how accurately the seeding reflects the power rankings in a little bit, but yeah, good stuff there. Caleb obviously not in the playoffs. So next matchup, T-Corn versus Brian. This one was pretty high scoring. Didn't really mean that much. T-Corn was locked in, I believe, that 3rd seed. And then Brian, I think, needed a win in some other things to make the playoffs. Of course, he didn't get that. But yeah, pretty good scores. Seems like Justin Fields is paying off for T-Corn. Gibbs doing well. Deontay Johnson, Christian McCaffrey. Hey, look at those. 3 of those 4 guys are pretty solid players. Yeah, just pointing that out. Yeah, I mean, other good players also. Brees did solid on the other side. OBJ, Cooper Kupp, T-Corn. His team could be, a late season. You wouldn't expect the late season surge from Cooper Kupp, expecting him to do it all season, but might get that surge from him. So next it was Matt versus Bruce. Kind of incredible what happened here, Matt. In terms of the standings, very near the bottom. Well, actually, maybe he moved up a little bit as of late, but obviously not in the playoffs. And then Bruce, obviously, in the playoffs. And this really was not Bruce's week this week. Hopefully for him, it turns around, and hopefully for Matt, he keeps doing what he has been doing. Will be out of Sacco contention in no time. Some very good scores here. Don't really need to dive into it too much, but yeah, great work for Matt here. Um, Strong favorite to exit, I think, week one of the Sacco Toilet Bowl. Speaking of strong favorites in the Sacco Toilet Bowl, we've got Adam and Sam. I am willing to bet. I feel like Sacco is going to be one of these two guys, just throwing that out there. Um, Sam has been kind of near the bottom or at the bottom all season. And Adam had that very strong start, but then really kind of fell off. Ended, I think, what was like a 5 or 6 week losing streak this week. Just barely against the worst team in the league. No offense. Had some good performances. He does have good players. They just really have not been coming through lately. Injuries are coming up with them as well, and benching. So we'll see, how well he can fare week one of the Sacco Bowl. Sam, same thing goes for him. There were some solid scores. Injuries abound. And also Parker Washington. So that kind of shows you the state of what's going on for Sam's team. Let's just hope he had a bye week tight end. Or just a guy who's not even on a team. So yeah, things are kind of not looking great for Sam, which led to my prediction. So yeah, those are that matchup. Adam did win, I mentioned, and then finally Colin versus Abby. This one was a freaking nail biter, super high scoring matchup. Luckily, Abby still snuck into those playoffs there. Has the same record as a couple other teams, but based off points, she got in. Am I actually just like 2 games back of her? So if a couple of one of them games would have gone my way, I'd be right in there because I may have higher scoring. I had 1646.09 and she had 1652. Whatever. She did pretty good, I guess. It's fine. Anyway, this game also, I believe, came down to Monday night. Saquon was obviously in there. Decent score from him. Actually, pretty solid score. But twas not enough. Abby lost by just over a point. So, pretty interesting stuff there. Wandale came through on that freaking, I think it was him that had that stupid corner route that got him in the field goal range. For some reason, we were playing really off coverage in that last drive, just giving them like 10 points each play. And also D-Hop was there. So yeah, between Wandale and D-Hop, Colin picked up about 42-ish, 43 points on Monday night, and was able to outlast Abby and Saquon's 22 points. So quite the exciting matchup between these two. Again, Colin didn't really have anything playing for in this matchup. Abby, kind of did, but she still made the playoffs, so it really didn't matter. Probably maybe could have been 5th seed had she won and Lincoln lost, but of course Lincoln won. Well, I guess she would she have been 6th or 5th seed even if Lincoln did win because they would have had the same record. I mentioned Abby's points. She had a 1652 and some change, and Lincoln had 1682. So if Lincoln would have scored, or she would have scored like 20 more, 30 more points, 25 more points, that would have been a lot. Or Lincoln would have just lost. She would have been 5th. But she's in the playoffs regardless, so no real harm, no real foul. Let's just see how the matchups play out. But all right, before we jump into week one of the playoffs, quick power rankings. At 14, Sam. 13, Adam. 12, State. 10, 11, Colin. 10, Caleb. 9, Brian. 8, Joey. 7, Matt. 6, Abby. 5, Lincoln. 4, Fiala. 3, Michael. Out of the number 1 spot. Yes, he is. 2, Bruce, and of course me. And I'm just going to throw this out there right now. My prediction for who I think is going to win the whole thing. Saying it right now. T-Corn. I think he's going to go back to back because he won last year. So I think he will be our first ever back to back champions. Or wait, State won last year. I get these years all mixed up, but it's fine. He'll be our first 2-time winner. That's never happened. Anyway, on to week 1 of the playoffs. And yeah, first up, me versus Colin. We've got some pretty, interesting players here. These two played pretty well last week, but they haven't always on the course of this season. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. Same thing with Zach Moss. Same thing with Jacoby and DK and Cole Kmet as well, and Hollywood and Hopkins and the Houston defense maybe too. So yeah, not super great, but they've done stuff. Yeah, I'm really hoping Colin's team kind of shits the bed this week because he put up a lot of points last week, as y'all saw. And I didn't put up as much as him, but it was still pretty good. And I do like my team. For the most part, I did lose Herbert, and so I do currently have Will Levis slotted in there. I'm not sure if you saw a little bit of a sneaky Monday night pickup, as I had Jalen Hyatt, who played Monday, and Will Levis played Monday. I'm like, well, I don't have a quarterback currently, so I'm just going to pick one up just in case I can't get one off waivers, which then, of course, I got 2 of them. So I do have decisions to make, and I am roster spot over right now, as I do have Ramondre in my IR, and he's currently questionable. So we'll see if I can play him this week, and maybe get Clyde out of there. But yeah, or probably we've got options. Probably don't really want to play Clyde, but we'll see. I do like my team, especially Romeo, going up against a vulnerable Tampa Bay passing defense, especially if Watson is out again. So I hope he absolutely goes off. But yeah, obviously projected to lose here. Don't really care about that. And I'm just gonna pick myself. So I'm gonna try to exit early. Don't want to have the stress of being back-to-back Sacco, because that would be pretty awful for me. So next would be Bruce versus Lincoln in the playoffs. These two guys are some very solid quarterbacks up against each other, some questionable running backs. Do have 2 Pittsburgh guys, so that's kind of fun. Some very solid receivers here on both sides. Tight ends lately have been pretty good, I believe. Solid flex options, pretty good stuff. Pretty good play here with the Chargers against Vegas, who did not score at all. But Miami is going up against the Jets, who did kind of shellac Houston. So we'll see how well that goes. For those teams, CJ Stroud probably out, Aaron Jones probably out. So that's a bit rough for Bruce over here. And then for Lincoln, got a couple guys that you could maybe play. We'll see if he does. But with all that said, I think I'm going to go Lincoln here. He kind of made a late surge to get into these playoffs, and Bruce kind of fell back. He was early on, I remember, pretty high up there in terms of the standings. Maybe started to slide a little bit towards the end there, but anything could happen in fantasy, and I think Lincoln's going to come away with a dub here. So, congrats, Lincoln, if that's what happens. Next is another, our second of 2 playoff matches, because, of course, Michael and Fiala have buys. T-Corn versus Abby, a rematch of the championship from a couple years back. So this should be fun. Got some, right off the bat here, some good quarterbacks, good running backs. So obviously all of these teams are very good. So very solid receiving core. Decent tight ends here. Logan Thomas is actually, I think, a pretty sneaky good tight end. Maybe not the last couple of weeks, but he has been good over the course of the season. Solid. I mean, you can't really. Well, this is a pretty good flex. Maybe not Gabe, but if you've seen the trend with Gabe Davis, not sure if anyone has seen this, but he's gone 23.7, then 0, then 9.6, then 0, then 22.5, then 0. So I'm sure he'll score somewhere between. I bet he'll score like 20 something, but it's really just kind of wild how he went good 0, all right 0, good 0. So maybe it'll be all right. So I'm thinking probably 10 points for Gabe this week. But I think the flex options over here are quite better. And then the defenses are actually against each other in this matchup as well. So that's fun. I already mentioned it at the top. Well, I guess kind of the middle, but I do think T-Corn's going to win the whole thing. And so obviously I'm going to be picking T-Corn in this matchup here, which will bring us on to our next matchup, which is in the Sacco Bowl. The rest of them are Sacco related. Sam versus Brian. Got some struggling quarterback here in Patrick. Crybaby Kermit, you could call him if you watch that game. Anyway, Rashad White's pretty solid. So is Achan. If he would have been healthy for Sam, that's may have turned his season around, but kind of incredible. He's only got 2 wins, and Achan. Well, I don't know when he picked him up, but kind of incredible that he went 2 wins with Achan on his roster. August 26th, he was drafted by Sam, so you really shouldn't. I mean, maybe those 2 wins are the 2 times he played well. Anyway, we'll see if these guys can suit up. Well, Jesterson, that's his name. Yeah, I mean, I think Brian's got a better team. He was just on the outside of the playoffs. It just really came down to points for him. So I'm going to pick Brian. Also, already mentioned, I think Sam's going to be Sacco. No offense. But, well, I guess not specifically just Sam or Adam. Which will move us on to Caleb versus Matt. 2 of the better teams in this Sacco Bowl. Matt, obviously, I think he's of the non-playoff teams. I ranked him the best just because he's just gotten so many points on the season. 1,777.99, which is literally just 2 points behind Michael for second most on the season. So it's really, I mean, you want to talk about unlucky, Matt. And he's also on a freaking 4-game win streak at the moment. So if he would have literally been, it's just wild. That's, Matt should be in the playoffs right now, and I think he would have a decent chance at winning. He sold away some pieces, obviously, as he, realized he wasn't going to make it. So he could have had, he could have Keenan Allen right now. I'm not sure who else he traded away, but I mean, his team is good. I definitely don't want to play him in this, which I'm not this week. I don't know if I would ever, and if it came to that. Well, yeah, we would meet in the Sacco Bowl if it came to that. If we just got extremely unlucky, and I really hope that doesn't happen for either of us. To be honest, it would be so. Oh golly, if Matt was Sacco after scoring the second most points on the season, literally 2 points behind the number 1 seed, that would just be brutal. Definitely need to throw in league median for next year to get guys like Matt and maybe me in the playoffs, because I mean, it just is a bummer. Anyway, enough of that. There are good players, obviously, on both of these teams here. We'll see if Pacheco can give it a go this week. Same with Jamar. I believe, said he's going to play, but you never really know until it actually happens. Matt's only rocking the double tight end. We'll see if he goes triple, throwing Ferguson in there for Zeke. But Zeke has been playing well lately. He could. Well, I guess if Pacheco's out, he could throw Zeke there and then throw Jake Fergie in that flex spot, rock that triple tight end, which has really worked out for him. So I'm going to pick Matt. I just think his team is legit good. Not that Caleb's isn't. I mean, he, was close to making the playoffs, but I mean, Matt's team is playoff championship, in fact, caliber. So yeah, that's that matchup. And bringing us to the final one, State versus Adam, a matchup of 2 former Saccos. Of course, Adam kind of unfairly got named Sacco. If y'all were here from way back in the first season, Adam was not actually last place that year. You'll all know who was, if you do know, but he left the league. So Adam had to be punished. Sorry, Adam, but I think he probably enjoyed wearing that little kilt and serving us drinks that draft. So, maybe it was a win-win for all of us. Anyway, decent quarterbacks, maybe. Some solid running backs as well. There are, on paper, very good receivers. Haven't quite been performing up to that standard, but they are definitely capable of big games. Solid tight ends. Obviously, Kittle is probably a bit better than Pat, but good. Flex options probably, maybe about 50-50. Elijah Moore hasn't been great. Neither has Terry, though. He's been actually kind of bad. The wide receiver 34, probably, I would have guessed maybe a little bit worse, but look at that smile. So anyway, and then the defenses, maybe not Jacksonville is a great choice here. Again, maybe Jets isn't either, but maybe he will be thrown into that lineup. I think State's going to win. Again, I kind of already made these predictions. So for matchups involving those teams, unless I am proven wrong, I'm going to go with the team that matches up with my prediction. So I think State's going to win. I do think it could be a close matchup. It's just really if the guys that are supposed to perform the way they're supposed to, if that makes sense. But it should be fun. All of these matchups should be a good time. I just really hope I don't lose. And all the predictions that I made boldly, I hope I'm right about those. Can Adam and Sam face each other in the Sacco Bowl? So we've got Adam here and Sam there. Man, could you imagine? Kind of open for that, to be honest. And if I had to put money on any two pairing, or whatever, I'm gonna make predictions right now. Okay, I think it's gonna be Sam and Adam here in the last place championship, if you will. I don't know. And then for the playoffs proper, you know what? I'm gonna get kind of wild here. I'm gonna go Lincoln and T-Corn here as the championship. That'd be kind of fun too, because former roommates, obviously very close friends, those two. Yeah, those are my bold predictions at the start of the playoffs here. It's going to be T-Corn and Lincoln in the championship playing for the Bork. And then Sam and Adam in the Sacco Bowl. So yeah, that'll do it for all of the fun little bit bops that I just talked about. So good luck to about half of you. Based off my predictions, I guess. Mostly good luck to me. And I'd hope I'm 100% right. And in fact, I probably will be 100% correct because I clearly know what I'm talking about. I mean, look at how many points I scored. Anyway, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Mish Po. Hope everyone has a fun week one of playoffs. And with that, thank you and thank you.